Fascinating. You've been described as both a visionary and a controversial figure. How do you think, well, how would you describe yourself?
Determined, unabashed, um, brutally honest, and as efficient as possible with my time on this planet.
Mm. Looking back and doing this 3 years of writing that you said, is there
Yeah.
something that you found that you would do differently in building this company up?
Well, that is a very loaded question. Let's break it down. So I can give you the most honest answer possible. So,
Okay.
in what respect? Like, if I could go back and do it again, if I could talk to myself at a certain point, like, give me a perspective, and I'll give you a
Yeah,
good
I mean,
answer.
well, because I know I've listened to you talk a lot about the process of doing 3 years of the book and how personal those stories were to you. And I'm curious, like when you were thinking about those stories and the emotion that it triggered in you, were you like, had I not done this, we would have been somewhere else, or I'm so happy this happened this way, or I can't sleep at night because I'm still thinking about this mistake. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
So I write a lot in my book about Phil Stutz, and I don't want to get into this stuff without giving him a ton of credit. I look
Mm,
at Phil Stutz as somebody who really helped save my life and definitely created the opportunity for me to give my children a whole life.
mhm,
Um, and one of the things he just beat into me is that, outcomes are are not the measure, right? Outcomes are what we seek as many of per day as possible so that we can learn from them and so they can inform our next decision. So it's not for me, I'm at a point in my life where no, there's no part of the book where I stayed up all night and I said, oh my God, I wish, because maybe there was a negative outcome. But if I'm still today learning from that outcome, the outcome gave me what it was supposed to give me. There's nothing for me to lose sleep over. I'd lose sleep over if I said, wow, I've never analyzed those outcomes before and they're not informing my decisions today, then I would definitely have a problem going to sleep tonight. Um, on the human side, because on the human side, if I could go back and talk to my earlier self, I would yank myself out of that world. I would beat myself into submission somewhere remote. And I would look into my own eyes and I would say, you're going to blink. And when you do, you're going to have been with your wife for 20 years, and your kids will be at a stage where they're about to not think you're cool anymore. Between now and then, how do you want to spend your time? And I wouldn't have left until that kid understood what I was trying to get through to him. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway, from the process of recounting and over again, this period of my life.
right. Wow. That's a great answer. You said the company went bankrupt in 2024, right? Or filed for bankruptcy. What happened to all the brick and mortar stores? Were they bought by other companies?
The level of shenanigans, and I think the street word is fuckery, that went on with the people that came after they threw me out, and all the different ways they try to skin the cat and put money into their own pockets and siphon off one thing to put in another place. I literally disconnected.
Mm,
And I make a point not to follow it. My book, towards the end of the book, actually ends with a scene in Phil Stutt's office, and this is what happened, and that's why again I thank him saving me. The beginning of the scene was he said, Adam, you can sit here and fight to stay at the company, but I want to flip it for you. How much would you pay to never have to deal with any of these people again? um, and that really shook my perspective because my true answer was like everything I have except for what I need for my kids and basic stuff because there is no trade worth it,
right.
um, you know, anymore. Um, sorry,
No,
I got off with that story.
no, no,
Um,
no. I love it. I think it's great. Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
please.
Okay. Let's get into cannabis in general. I'm
Yeah.
curious. Okay, so it's not federally legal. It's not legal in all the states. What is the biggest hurdle? What's preventing this from being just a normal everyday thing that people can access?
The way the world works. And that's the
Meaning,
truth.
meaning,
Like there's nothing let's talk about what's not preventing it, and then we can get into how the
okay.
world works. Okay. Here's what's not preventing it. Overwhelming medical studies. They exist. Here's what's not preventing it. Case studies proving that petty theft and crime decrease when marijuana is accessible in a legal fashion. Oh,
Mhm.
that already exists. Actually, the FBI has been sending that out in its annual crime report, since I was at MedMen. So that was, God, I don't want to age, but that's 15 years ago. Here's what's not going to stop it. Yeah, but there's other countries that have done it, and you can see how the black market is still thriving, and it's not trend. No, right? Other markets have taken. I was in Israel last year. Their medical cannabis market is so refined and so mature and so accessible and so destigmatized. Just can't say that anymore. So that's what's not going to stop it. And the last thing that won't stop it is there's not enough demand, because the more people that learn how to access this plant in a healthy way, the more cannabis consumers there are the world over. And the less stigmatized it is and the more mainstream it is, the more people every day that get introduced to the plant.
Mhm.
Here's what is stopping it, the way the world works. There are institutions that control how things evolve, right? And everything from regulations.
Mhm.
Regulations aren't just, oh, I have a license to sell pot in my state now. Regulations are everything from how it works with hemp and Delta 9 and things that aren't marijuana being sold as marijuana, and where marijuana can be sold or can't be sold. You still can't buy marijuana along your everyday shopping experience. You have to
Right.
make an extra stop. And why is that? Because people can't see that that is a clog in the machine. No, it's purposeful. It's because it's not supposed to work, because there are interests being protected, right? Whether those interests are the status quo interest of where that consumer is spending those dollars otherwise. If I'm not going to go out of my way to make a special stop along the way, I'm going to go ahead and use that same money at the grocery store to consume that same effect. One of the
Mm.
fascinating things we saw in America as states legalized marijuana, and then we got a year, 2 years, 3 years into it, is the direct correlation of cannibalization of beer sales and marijuana legalization. Because for so many people, from just a chill, take the buzz off, get a buzz, like take the stress off and just sit into my, chair moment. A
Right.
lot of Americans drink beer. When marijuana is legal, they switch. And so what is happening is, if you still have to go out of your way, well, great, then I will keep it in the status quo, which is buy your six pack instead
Right.
of buy your vape pen. On top of everything else, what you have is you have big alcohol and big tobacco. Big tobacco is thriving.
Mm.
As Americans, we don't see it unless we're paying special attention, because America is not the rest of the world.
Mm.
But big tobacco is thriving, and the transition to non-smokables, vapes and pouches, is sending those companies to the moon. But what are those companies proving out? They are not cigarette companies. They are effect companies. They are there to deliver you, Rachel, an effect.
Right.
And for tobacco people, that effect is a buzz. Now, let's say smoking is seen as somehow unhealthy or stigmatized. I will give you a pouch. I will give you a vape, but
But
I'm
which
going to
still
deliver
has the
you this
same end
effect.
result that creates
Still has the
cancer
effect.
and yeah, but
As
the bad
horrible as it
result.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, then
Yeah.
that's a horrible effect. So for them to go ahead and say, and I'm figuring out how to give you the effect you feel when you use cannabis, of course they're trying to figure that out.
Right.
And the reason right now it's heading towards those kind of groups controlling this, and then they'll make it legal, they'll make it accessible, their products will be in the grocery store, is
Right.
because those pioneering groups, those that came after me, those that filled up that initial asset class, they can't stop. fucking bickering with each other. They can't stop getting in, out of each other's way, and they can't create a unified vision that, an industry for all that is permanent benefits everybody. And
Mm.
that infighting amongst a class of individuals who, by and large, themselves are rebels. That's why they came into this in the first place, and now they don't play nice with each other. It makes perfect sense, but it's a joke to, somebody with a couple $100 billion market cap. That's some multinational conglomerate looking at, oh, that's a cute business that does $1 billion a year in revenue. We'll just scoop them up and we'll make them part of our effects company now.
Right.
So it hasn't happened yet because the powers that be that run the world of money, right, have been positioning themselves as they always do, methodically, letting lunatics like myself pioneer and create it so that they can then go ingest it in a legal, strategic, long term way into their mega business. And that's how
Right.
the world works.